I will call the BOCES meeting to order. Item number is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
of the United States Republic for which it stands, and justice for all.
Item number 2, elect a chairman pro tem. So obviously our annual meeting where we elect our officers.
I nominate Cassie to be the chairman.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Approval of the agenda for January 17th.
I motion that we approve the agenda for January 17th.
All those in favor? Motion passes. All right, so reorganization. Elect a chairman.
I motion that Cassie is still the chairman.
Second.
All those in favor? Did you say aye?
Aye, sure. I don't know. There's not just a lot. Then I have to answer all the time.
I do believe George is on the phone, which I didn't say. Hi, George. Thank you.
You can still do it. He's there. You can say hi to him.
That's what I just said. I said, hi, George.
You might say it louder.
Hi, George. Can you hear us all right?
He'd wait that.
Okay. All right, on to electing a vice chairman.
Was that Joe?
Yep.
I motion that Joe was it, especially since he's not here.
And I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Right, motion passes. Elect a clerk.
I nominate Charlie. Because that's what you were before.
Everybody has to have a job. Just is what it is. Is that a second?
We have.
Technically, you shouldn't second.
Oh.
You have to.
So you have to second it.
Okay, I would second it.
I can't nominate and second.
That's true. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those. Motion passes.
We gave you a really crappy. We made up a new.
Oh.
God.
Oh no.
On to your nomination.
We get left in.
Karen, just Karen.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I didn't do it.
Karen's it.
All right. There's a motion to nominate treasurer. Is there a second? Okay, I will second.
Yeah, I'll second.
You'll second that, okay.
Aye.
Motion passes. Karen is treasurer. Okay. Item 5, approval of the minutes from the BOCES December 20th, 2021 meeting.
Madam Chairperson, I move that we approve the minutes from the BOCES 12/20/2021 meeting.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, item 6, treasurer's report. Are you guys having any problems with the internet? I'm not able to pull it up, so.
Madam Chair, members of the board, your balance at the end of December was $196,839.28. You see there your December bills and your payroll and your revenue for the month of November, or December, I forget which month I mean. You had major receipts from the Carbon County Treasurer with a little bit of interest income, and then your investments as they're invested in Wildstar and Bank of the West. Any questions?
I don't have any. Karen had that up, but thank you. Gosh, I don't know why I'm having a problem. Sorry about that. All right, so next up is item number 7, consideration of bills for December 2021.
Madam Chairman, I motion that we pay the bills of the January 2022 BOCES fund of $3,323.08.
Is there?
Second.
There's a motion. On to item 8. And fortunately, I printed this out, so.
Okay, so, December pretty slow, just because of a lot of time for planning and updating, which was nice. In early childhood, we went ahead and planned menus and obtained, organizational handouts and activities for Encampment and Saratoga for the January upcoming, kindergarten readiness. All of the staff in the northern part of the district was contacted as well to discuss our plans for kindergarten readiness, where we had incoming students, needed supplies, that type of stuff. As far as adult education, we went ahead and at PDC in the northern part of the district and getting loose ends tied up concerning some of the community classes, such as had a conversation and okay to go ahead with another oil class with Lori Coster starting in March, and we already have signing up for that, so that's great. We've got people signed up for canning classes already as well. Advertising for all of these things will go out tomorrow. We also are in discussion to have a community CPR class. This will be for individuals in the communities to do CPR, AED, and first aid to include infants. And that's something that people have come to me. This will actually be done through Western Wyoming and the American Heart Association. They've got another opportunity to do another platform now. I remember, but that's not the one everybody wants with the American Heart Association. So now for February, and then continued work with development with Western Wyoming. We have technically late enrollment. Brought our enrollment numbers, so part of December was making sure all those registrations went through, making kids switch classes. Certain sections were dropped, classes were added, as well as finding of book orders. Book orders were sent out, and as far as I know, up to date, most everybody has everything, and if they don't, it's been figured out thus far. Our Google Calendar, I don't know if you guys noticed, we discussed in the last meeting about blessings packs in the northern part of the district and potentially going after a grant for that. I was informed right after Copeland that Sinclair did go ahead and get $1,000 for that, so that's no longer on the agenda. Planning classes for kids cooking on Fridays. And go. And there will be, or excuse me, through May, that's a typo. There will be one cooking class a month, and then if kids are really into it, we'll continue it through the summer, but maybe do a couple more times throughout the month instead of just one. Moving forward, continue, obviously, dual registration, because that seems to be a continuing thing that will still up, the beginning of January, i.e. now. Do more Facebook advertising, and then essentially just kick off the events for 2022. That's it.
Thank you, Brett. Any questions?
What's your main source of advertising for like the adult senior education?
Best thing right now is Facebook, and then still putting posters out. But other than that, doing like the news, the radio, on like the happenings page for the, when they might make a blurb about it, just due to budgeting. It's not cost effective for the return we get on it, and then PVCC allows stuff on the marquee too. But it's mainly just Facebook, and that goes BOCES Facebook page, and then I blasted on essentially all of the Carbon County upcycle sites and like Carbon County rant chat and whatever, and it seems to be a good hit through all like 3 Hannah encampments or Toga, but it's free. We therefore, like when I first started this, we did paper advertising for events, but the cost was eventually easier life, because when you're running ads for a month, that ends up being almost $1,000, and it just isn't worth it in the long run.
Are there other questions? I had a couple of questions.
Yeah.
On the dual enrollment, how many kids do we have?
Right now, total, let's see, I think there's 21 throughout all 3 schools right now.
What'd you say?
21, I believe. There is 2 sets of homeschoolers, great, and we had another schooler come in this week, which was, I can get you an exact number.
No, roughly.
Seems to be shifting, which is good, to the positive, like we're now less, which is nice.
When does that start?
So there are 6-week classes, some are 12-week classes, some are 8-week classes.
I see. Okay.
It doesn't seem like my kids know about that.
So
that's
interesting you should bring that up. Yes, all of the counselors know about this, and that's why there's been that push with Western Wyoming to do the postcard advertising to all the mailboxes in the county, because even though I have informed counselors time and time again that, you know, early registration is coming up, registration closes then, hey, let's start talking about this, there is still a massive reluctance, or there is it's not open to all students in the district, which it should be. And that's the point of dual enrollment.
Why is it not open to all the kids?
Because for, that is, I have found since I've taken this job, Karen, it is a school by school situation.
Of how the counselors approach
Yep.
the students, you're saying?
Yeah.
Are there still some
And administration
entry,
as well.
requirements?
Nope. By law, the only requirement you have to be 16 unless you approval and the approval of the principal.
And they still though have done, well, they don't, but I know at one time they had some kind of test in Western Wyoming and had to make a certain.
They have to make it, they have to pass registration, and generally it is also based on if they have their ACT scores, particularly for classes and English.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
And we only let them take, so they can't take like psychology. They can't.
Absolutely. They can take psychology, they can take English, they can take math, they can
Because
take
psychology,
sociology.
you can take it as a freshman, can you not, in high school? You could be able to.
You should be able to, yeah. There's no prereqs for psychology.
But we don't offer it to the underclassmen, the upperclassmen get it first,
So-
is what I've been.
Rules concerning dual enrollment or college enrollment, period, are set forth by the College Commission. You have to, minimum is you have to be 16. Have the approval of the counselor, me, or the principal. And I'm the final determination. If essentially we have never discussed this subject with anybody, because similar to what you said, people don't know about the program. And they're getting to know more about the program, and essentially, they can take anything that would be equivalent to a college core class, or that can take an elective place. There is interest in having with dual enrollment so that they get high school credit as well, so like English takes the place of an English class during normal high school. That being said, there is really no class they cannot take.
So can we not have, like, you go in the beginning of the year and talk to the kids or something? So
Ideally, yeah.
they understand this is going on, because I think you would get more kids involved if they understood, maybe. I would say a lot of, like, my nephews do it in Shoshone, like, all the time, and I've heard Powell has a school there, but they have kids that are graduating high school that have,
Well, when I was down
2
in
years worth
Oklahoma,
done.
we were graduating kids through the community college. When they graduated as seniors from high school, they had their associate's degrees already.
Seems like something we should
Strive
better
for.
inform kids. Yes, I think I would be good.
I am in complete agreement, Karen.
The year that I came, there were restrictions, district level restrictions. They could only take junior and senior level. There was only certain, and that was at a district decision, I think, plus some was connected to Western Wyoming. Now, I don't know how it's developed over the years, because I'm not.
None of those
closely
should have
involved.
ever been in place. We were technically very illegal by ever putting any of those in.
There you go. Well, we need to check on that, but I'm just saying, part of it was because we paid the cost, there were limits on money, so we limited the numbers of courses because we were paying the cost.
We could only afford
We
so
could only
many
afford a certain number, and I
students,
kind
and so
of
we
think
started
that's
at
where
the
it
higher level,
started
which makes
from.
sense.
Yeah.
So I think that was more the restriction in the beginning. Plus, if I'm remembering, I think I understood English and math, they still had to make a certain level on it to be able to take those
They have to
courses.
meet college requirements.
Yeah, so that limited some numbers because not everybody can make those levels, so. And I think they have loosened up. We have loosened up some, so we've been able to have more money available to pay, but with Western Wyoming, because it always went through, BOCES.
So
But there was also philosophy, if I'm not remembering, and of course, a lot of the board members changed, but I remember when I came, we discussed a little bit of some of this, and Joe can maybe correct me if I'm wrong on this, but there was some philosophy, whether you agree with it or not, that we should, that we were in the high school course business, not in the college course business. Now, that has changed over time because more and more schools are mentally doing more and more of that. I'm just saying there have been some things that have changed. Came into it, we never had this in other states where I came from, so we never paid for courses and stuff like that, because in other states, a lot of times there's not the money.
I also do believe that BOCES did pass that they are paying for 4 courses. Is that correct?
Unless somebody is, then that will be a board decision.
the 4 courses per, right?
16 credits technically.
Yeah, that's still.
A semester
That's
gone.
if I'm not mistaken, that was 2 English and 2 math, and that was still in their junior and senior year. Did we take that off or not?
It was one course per semester. It was one 3 or 4 hour course per semester. If they were really driven, then you could, bump it to 2, maybe 1 semester. So you got 3 of a year, but philosophy was that course a semester is based junior, senior year. And I don't know that the requirement was that it had to be math or English.
Well, initially it was changed, and then we had some more concurrent teachers, which a few years ago. Is that right?
Correct.
Still correct?
And it's because you're already taking that class, and it could be a concurrent, correct?
If
Like,
it's approved by Western Wyoming. And if
do
it's
we have
already,
any of those?
we
that
have
are-
concurrent classes, yes.
What are concurrent classes?
Currently, we have political science with Mr. Williams. We have geology, and we have 1 English section. And then we have some Microsoft classes as well.
Did you say
Computer
government? It
science.
seemed like there was a government.
That's poli-sci.
Is that, oh,
A lot of those early decisions were financially motivated.
Yes, no,
And ignorance of
I'm
the
not
community.
sorry.
I would say, based on what I've read with at least what I assume is the current version of the BOCES handbook, I would say that we wrote that policy maybe to kind of protect us in the sense that younger classmen could essentially approach their counselors, their principals, and say, I would like to take this course, and then depending on the financial situation, yes or no question. So I legality issues that you.
That's why we rewrote the handbook last year,
Okay.
because of conversations with the college commission and our district lawyers.
Okay. So now is it specifically?
It's up to state legislation says.
Okay, Stephen and I were just talking briefly, what about graduation requirements?
Concerning,
So if a student is applying to take any, essentially, course that they could take, how does the graduation requirements factor into that, the courses that they need to take within our district?
they have to suffice those first, and essentially that's the discussion of the counselor with them.
Because right now, the way our policy state is that we will count the college English, and I think one of the college math, and I think we listed specifically, without them coming to the board and asking for an exemption. If they want to take anything else like that, they count specifically for a graduation requirement, they have to come to the board and ask for an exemption on that class for a graduation requirement. So say, for example, they want to take 2 English classes at the college level, they would have to come and ask for an exemption on that.
Sorry.
So,
That's the doorbell.
It is.
they would have to come and ask for an exemption.
So you're saying they have to add an exemption for that to count as their high school credit too?
Yeah. So, and that's the way it's written right now. And obviously, not the BOCES board, so you have to change that, but that would be something that whether they could just count college classes as graduation requirements. That would make sense.
From freshmen to seniors, this is available to them, right? Or is it just junior, senior?
Currently, right now, it's pushed toward juniors, because they're generally 16 at that juncture. There are, like our homeschool kids, most of them are a lot younger than that.
I don't know if I agree with the allowing the college courses to go against their graduation. I think we need to stick with the graduation requirements. You've got that to do. If you want to take these extra courses, then that is on you, and that's what it should be.
That's probably the philosophy that went back and said that English and the math could count, those particular courses could count. I'm just guessing. I mean, this is something that
Because they suffice Hathaway requirements, is that correct, Joel?
Say that again, sorry.
They suffice Hathaway requirements?
The official rule in Hathaway is that if it's a college level course, it's automatically considered for Hathaway approved, and we don't need to actually pursue it.
That would mean that if you took a college class as a high school class towards Hathaway.
Yeah. I don't think it would ever really emerge, but if their transcript was written that the individual and their high school transcript at school in Wyoming, they can't quite understand why that student took that class, not labeled properly. It might not be automatically considered Hathaway credit, but I can't really imagine situations like that really emerging. It only really comes if we have some kind of bizarre class, I should say. That makes sense.
I would like if the kids knew more about it, especially if it's being to homeschool kids that are 16, that seems not fair as well.
Parents, I don't think parents understand it.
Well,
I think as a parent, like my child, depending on, which child, they're gonna maybe want it or not, and if they don't, then it doesn't go any further. So I think it's really important to somehow let parents know, and I think that's the hard part, is them understanding that.
And what's the best
What
way
can
to do that? Sending out email concerning that is not useful.
No, but I
Effective,
think talking, I think
Because I've tried
kids
that.
in class that are motivated and stuff, if you told them at the beginning of the year or something, and you sat down with them and explained, you have these opportunities, this is how this works, they get more involved. You get the kids that want to be involved, I guess. To me, they don't see any, they don't really think about later as much either, so they don't understand how that's beneficial sometimes too.
Stephen has
I would say one thing that we've run into is we've had kids that have decided not to take college classes because they were some of even our upper level kids, because they didn't want to take the chance of hurting their GPA. So they were afraid of not doing as well in those college classes. And trying to get over that fear with some kids, it's been a hurdle.
Hurting their high school GPA or their overall? Okay.
Their high school GPA.
Just
If they were some of those upper level kids that were, in that running for valedictorian and salutatorian, and they're like, you know what, I don't want to take one right now because I don't want to hurt my GPA. And however much to try to tell them, we have that slightly weighted GPA for the college classes, and you can do it, you'll be okay. It doesn't go anywhere. They're just afraid of doing worse and hurting their high school GPA, so they don't want to take that. I don't know how to get over that with some of them.
I have a suggestion, maybe instead of waiting until the beginning of the year, that you talk to the sophomores and juniors at the end of the school year.
Yeah.
If you can tie it in with something else, like when is the FAFSA?
That's in the beginning, that's in September usually.
September.
Yeah,
Just,
but by then it's too late for
Too
them
late.
to enroll in the fall. But if you would talk to them in the spring, try to get it in their mind.
Yeah, they might think about it more so than, I just, as a board, I don't even know what it is, so how is a parent gonna know what it expect a 16-year-old kid to tell their parents necessarily that I don't know where my son's going this weekend, so I don't know.
and it's confusing, so
Yeah.
if you have to, the big thing is just letting them know that the opportunity's out there. Pursue it, then they can contact a counselor or contact rec or, whatever.
Regular high school English or math.
Well, if it's dual credit, it could
If
be.
it's dual, it's the
I think
same.
that's
So-
part of the whole
Has,
issue.
has there been a problem though if they've chosen that and they've taken concurrently, correct?
Well, some are dual. Dual means they get a grade at college level and at high school. Concurrently
Concurrent
means
means-
that we provide the teacher and Western accepts that teacher.
And they can get
College.
college credit, but it's all in-house is what it is. They still get a college credit.
Yes.
The situation is though, it follows them and they have to realize that.
But we ensure that they get the equivalent, correct? So, meaning that if they the college classes that they've taken, not gonna hurt their graduation
Well, it could.
requirement.
With dual credit, if they take a prof at Western Wyoming and they make a B, and they've made straight A's their whole life, that upsets some kids, because then they would have a B on their high school along with a B at Western Wyoming. I guess that's still the way
But
it
they
works.
still graduate.
So some kids, and this is everywhere I've been, not just here, some kids, if that's the most important thing to them is to make straight A's and be valedictorian, and they're a little, some of them, not all of them, but some of them are a little skittish about taking a course under a prop that's not under any oversight of this district, or their school district.
And that's what Steve was getting at.
Yeah, so that's what Steve was mentioning.
Do they have support from the counselors with these classes if they are struggling or different things?
Yes, and they have support from me too.
So you think that would help?
If I might ask a question. I mean, when I went to high school, which was a bazillion years ago, the counselor basically was telling you, advising you what courses to take for whatever goals you were set. Didn't have anything to do with psychology, getting along with it. It was strictly counseling on academics. Now, the counselors still have that role
I would
currently.
presume, yeah.
Yeah.
So to tell the kids that they can take dual enrollment, whatever it might be, that falls on the counselor advising these kids. And I think that if the counselor is doing that job, then the administration should be making sure the counselor does that.
Well, and two, just along with that, there are some students realize when they take a dual credit course under a college prop or even under concurrent, there are different levels of expectations. I mean, a college course is not the same as a high school course. That's why you tend toward juniors and seniors in your age 16, because you can kind of understand that. Because we've had kids that started the college course and basically just bombed out. And then they had to either drop it by the drop date or whatever. And so there's that responsibility of counselors and so on. They know those kids and principals who say, you haven't shown that you did that well in high school, there's going to be different expectations. In other words, you can't turn everything late a day or two and the prop's going to say, okay, in those cases. It's just a different set of expectations. And so it's for those driven students, like we do that.
Stephen?
And I can speak to what happens in the other, how we approach it at HBM. We start in the grade telling the kids what you can do. We started parent-teacher conferences, informing the parents, telling them this is what's available, so that they know, when the board goes in and talks to them about that, he tells them what's do and how they can work that. And he works with the kids on what they want to go into, what they want to start taking, and then they look at what are available and what they might want to take, whether it's psychology, whether it's a sociology course, whatever is available they want to take. And we've had kids take kinds of different things that I would have never thought.
Do well.
And they've had some fun with it. But just because of different things that they plan to go into, so it's trying to help them get their prerequisites out of the way now. So when they go off to wherever they plan to go, they're saving a little bit of money and saving a little bit of time. Again, that's how we approach it and how Mr. Ward approaches it. I can't speak to the other buildings.
Sure.
And it may be good to discuss consistency between, that's our child school, different traditions, different philosophies, and I mean, maybe it's time to look and get our heads together again on all of this. Because it has changed over each 8 years I've been in some of the practices.
Do you have a good graphic that explains this pretty simply? Because I feel like that's one way to get parents' attention,
Like a good one.
Yeah, that might be an idea for the future. I said, I don't think if you get a long-winded email, that really gets specifics that parents are going.
Well, secretaries send out any sort of email, it gets trashed. There's a handful of parents who might read it, but as a blanket statement, it gets trashed.
Again, like I said, 900 people, but to whatever that comes up, and they might click on
You can install a buzzer in the to get everybody's attention.
I know there's a disconnect between the schools and the parents.
Especially when you have older kids that you think are older that are gonna tell you stuff.
And I think it's really worse in high school right now, because, when our kids were in school, you'd show up a parent teacher, and there'd be very few teachers, or parents that would show up.
it's more of a challenge in secondary, for sure.
Yeah, and, so I think that adds to your problem, right, that you're trying to address, so. And how you answer that and cure that problem, I don't know.
But the point is that currently, the people utilizing this program are not the ones that need it. They're not the ones that should be in dual enrollment and concurrent enrollment. The kids that are not in the program are the ones that need to have a little bit of a taste of college and realize what is out there, instead of being okay with looking at the come and go for the rest of their life.
And
They need pushed just a little bit, because the group of students we're currently servicing, I'm very happy that they're enrolled, but they're not the target audience that would really benefit from going to a JC.
Well, because I think it's intimidating for a lot of kids thinking college is gonna be so much harder than high school, and really, for most of it, it's just like high school, you're a big person that makes yourself go, or you're in charge of making sure you get that done, nobody hounds you to do it, but they're all smart enough to do it. And I think that's what they probably worry about, like their grades and stuff like that, not being able to get an A or something. Most of those high achieving kids will do
Get it
fine.
done,
Yeah.
They're not the ones in the grand scheme of things that benefit from these programs.
You're saying because they have their mind and
They're going.
forward, and some of the kids that might be certain.
Well, if they have a taste of it, they might go, I could do this.
Then realize the ability of the training that are offered at community colleges would benefit a lot of these kids.
Yeah. Well, thank you for answering. It was a really great discussion, and maybe some ideas moving forward. Item number 9, there is no unfinished business. Item number 10, audience, public comment. James, got nothing, all right. We are on to item number 11, new business. First item is digital photography. Correct?
I out in the northern part of the district who would like digital photography class, intro to digital photography, like approval to go forward and on this path. I have found 2 individuals. It is one of them in the southern part of the district who would be willing to entertain the ability to teach us down there, probably at PVCC or library, or possibly at one of the school libraries. The class down there, and then eventually make Johnson up here in the northern part of the district to do digital photography. So basics to camera, basic to photo editing, utilizing either on, or available from. Right now is a 4 or 5 session class, either 1 or 2 nights, so either 2.5 weeks or just 5 spread out over time. Individuals seem to think that 4 or 5 session would get people up and teach them what they're desiring to know about this fancy camera.
Great. Any questions for Breck? Item B, Title I Rockies tickets.
So we need to give approval.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Thank you. All right, is there a motion to move forward with digital photography?
We give Breck to move forward with photography
All right, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion passes. All right, 11B, one Rockies tickets.
In years past, Rockies marketing has always contacted the BOCES director to do Rockies tickets for the Title I students. There's two ways of going about this. We either just buy them outright, which we normally have, and they're cheap tickets, and then we ascertain the transportation to Denver, we plan some other sort of get like to the zoo or the aquarium or whatever. During that day, they spend the whole entire day there and come home and get to enjoy a live baseball game. I have been, again, we canceled this last year and the year before because of COVID. This year, they're up and rolling again, and would like to know if we would like to do this. The second way of doing this, which I think would be a lot more and more beneficial for BOCES in the long run, is that the students also sell tickets sold, which essentially covers the tickets for the students, so it's just not a direct hit to our budget. And then anybody in the community can go as well. And so we can still broker transportation, that's fine, so it's like a fundraiser, but it's for Rockies tickets. And there's only certain games we choose. In the past, the Title I teachers and I have sat down with the administration and figured out dates that would work amongst the students and chosen those games accordingly. But ideally, if we do this, again, I would like to get the students involved in selling some community tickets so that the community would be a little more involved with us. Because that's one of the things that some of the Title I teachers have said, that these kids are not as well integrated, and that some of the aspect of to get outside of their communication bubble and sell tickets as a fundraiser.
Any questions for Breck about that? Or?
So you basically buy an amount of tickets and have them sell a certain, or would you sell them all?
No, so essentially the way the program works is we choose ticket where the tickets are obviously located. In the past, like we've bought $7 and $14 tickets. And so essentially if the kids sell double the price is essentially what the Rockies management says or marketing. And so if Kason came to you and said, hey, Grandpa, buy Rockies tickets, you'd buy them at $28 a pop opposed to 14, and that would be the name of that too. And then we would get the other $14 for the Title I program or whatever, and then you would too, and you'd cover the cost of student tickets in the same time.
Day that's selected, is it a weekday or is it a weekend?
What day is selected. Sometimes there's Tuesday games, sometimes there's Friday games, sometimes there's Thursday games, and sometimes there's Saturday games. You have shied away from Saturday, so they've been Tuesday or Friday games.
Okay. How do administrators feel about that? With
In the past, they have been very happy about sending
the additional kids, so.
Other kids.
That I don't know about,
Yeah.
because we haven't utilized that option before.
I think that's a question that we would need to ask, you know, because that could potentially cut down on a lot. It would be
If those
potentially a
kids
lot of
went, but the
students.
thing is that what I'm envisioning is that Title I kids are selling more to community members, so it would be more adults going. And I guess in that case, if it ended up being that a whole bunch of kids went, they would just end up being absent, and parents would have to call them in and say, whoops, sorry, you're absent because you're going to a Rockies game.
I could just see both of my boys like wanting to go. So like, the next thing you know, half of the student population is gone.
But not everybody else is going.
Would this be a case where, I mean, how many kids have gone in the past?
We've had a busload, maybe a busload and a half, but that included parents that went with them.
Okay, so we're talking regular.
And that's
yellow
across the
bus.
whole district. Yes.
Yellow bus.
And we're talking about providing transportation for everybody that goes.
We have in the past for Title I. And
Those
then families,
dates would just need to be coordinated with drivers since we.
which
Yeah, so sure a day's not on a day of attractions or whatever season it's.
We can shelve it for now if you guys, we're going to have to do some.
One idea I would have would, an approach would be maybe each student, Title I student, is only allowed to bring like one other student or something, I don't know, you know, could you?
If they do it on a Friday, then it doesn't, like, we probably don't have school, then that's not a big deal.
Right.
They can shoot for trying to find a Friday if possible.
Well, things we could do to mitigate it. But I would like, you know, I'd like to hear from administrators.
And there just need to be enough adult supervision and group, I don't know how much you need really.
Yeah. But I like the idea, and I like the idea of integration. It reminds me a little bit about the Panther Buddies program where, so. Is there a motion, or would you like to table it?
I'd make that motion that we allow Brett to pursue the Title Rockies tickets. Come back with dates and, you know, I'm not sure how many tickets you're talking, you know, so.
The last year we brokered it at 42 tickets.
And of which, how many Title I students?
Open to Title I.
Oh, so we had 41 students, 42.
Yeah, but they had adults.
Okay. Investigate.
Is that a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Brett. All right, our next meeting is March 21st at 2:45 at the Saratoga Middle High School. I will adjourn the meeting.